Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Hey, New Orleans, get ready for some rugby. There's a new pro sports team in town, and it's NOLA Gold, bringing world-class rugby to the Crescent City. The game is fast, the hits are hard, the fan experience is for real. Season tickets, lifetime tickets, and game day passes are all available at nolagoldrugby.com. I'm John Goodman, and I'll see you in the scrum.
Well, here's the bottom line. You say that. Let me tell you. Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and we have another great show for you tonight. I cannot wait. Well, it's finally here. The weekend we've all been waiting for here in Louisiana on Saturday night. It's the Primetime Special that always occurs on that first Saturday every November. The defending national champion and number one team in the country, the Alabama Crimson Tide, they invade Tiger Stadium. And as you know, it's been a primetime night event every single year since 2011. It's pretty much the game of the year for both teams. They always have the bye the week before. LSU won that first one in 2011 behind Les Miles. Remember in Tuscaloosa, en route to that great 13-0 season during the regular season. And Bama ended up winning the championship. But Bama has been victorious in every game since. Most of these games, though, they've been hard-fought wars, but the last three in Death Valley have been absolutely heartbreaking. In 2016, a month after Coach O took over as LSU's head coach, well, it was a defensive slobber knocker. Yeah, the Tigers and Tide went into that fourth quarter deadlock. Remember, it was 0-0, and then Jalen Hurts, the freshman who won SEC Player of the Year, well, he scored the game's only touchdown on a wild 25-yard scramble to win the game. Well, hey, 2014, 2 years earlier, LSU looked like they were going to win that game, but an inopportune penalty for pulling players off the pile. Do you remember that on a special teams play? Well, that gave the Tide new life as LSU got pushed back and they missed that game-clinching field goal. Bama came down and scored to put that game into overtime in the closing seconds. And we all know what happened in OT. In 2012, well, that was Zach Mettenberger's coming out party. Remember, he led LSU up and down the field that night, kind of surprising everybody. Well, the Tigers had the lead for almost the entire second half. Bama got the ball back late in the game. They needed a TD drive to win. Not much time to do it. And after not moving the ball at all night long, well, they moved it downfield when they needed to. And A.J. McCarron found T.J. Yeldon over the middle for a very, very late TD, and you get the picture. Lots of heartbreak. And guess what? This year's Crimson Tide team, they might be the most explosive that Nick Saban's ever had. Maybe Bama's ever had. Tua Tagovailoa, you know who he is. He comes in with 25 touchdowns and zero interceptions. That's unbelievable. He's the early favorite right now to win the Heisman Trophy, and he's been so good. Well, he got an SEC Player of the Year guy benched, but he's also not even had to take a snap in the entire fourth quarter. It's been amazing. LSU is going to be ready for this game, though, but Bama still comes in at Death Valley as 14-point favorites over the fourth-ranked Tigers. Let's all just hope for another great game. I'm looking forward to this. But guess what? It gets even better on Sunday. That's not the only huge matchup this week. And the Saints, well, who exercised major demons this weekend in Minnesota. Remember, they just beat the Vikings 30-20 in their third meeting in Minnesota in 13 months. Well, they finally got it done. They won that game. But this weekend, they play the #1 team in the NFL, the undefeated 8-0 Los Angeles Rams. So explosive behind Ty Gurley. This team is phenomenal right now. Well, most teams would probably have the Saints ranked about 3rd or 4th if they did rankings in the NFL. Well, it's pretty similar, right, to the LSU-Bama matchup, 1 versus 3 or 4. And same thing on Sunday. It's going to be rocking in the Superdome late Sunday afternoon. How about the World Series? It just ended Sunday. The Red Sox, David Price, who couldn't win a postseason game to save his life. Well, he just won 3 in a row, 2 in the World Series. He was absolutely fantastic. And how about this? Steve Pearce, no one probably even knew his name before the World Series. 3 home runs, a late addition to this Red Sox team. He is the World Series MVP. And for the 2nd straight year, Kershaw is sitting in a dugout looking down at the cement because they lost another one. He has not been the same pitcher in the postseason he was in the regular season. Hey, by the way, the Pelicans, they started the season 4-0. Friday night, they won a wild and crazy comeback. They were trailing the Nets pretty much the entire night, double digits. They came back and won it at the last second. It was unbelievable how that game turned out. AD, however, he hurt his elbow. He's missed the last 2 games, a tough one against Utah. Last night it was in Denver. They fought hard, but they lost both those games. But tomorrow night, this is going to be a tough road trip. I'm telling you, they play Golden State tomorrow in Oakland, and that will be another tough one we shall see. Hey, by the way, speaking of the Warriors, how about guard Klay Nelson? He went absolutely nuts last night. Klay Thompson, excuse me. He went absolutely nuts last night. I had a roommate named Klay Nelson. How funny is that? He went nuts. And he had an NBA record 14 threes. He broke his teammate Steph Curry's mark of 13. Get this. The guy hit 10 threes in the first half alone. And here's the crazy thing. He's always been a great shooter, right? Well, the first 7 games of the season, he's only hit 5 out of 36 threes. He was the lowest three-point shooting guy in the league so far to start the season, but he hit 14 of them in 1 game. Congratulations to him. I have a great show, like I said earlier. Hey, I talked about Les Miles. I have his daughter coming in, Smacker Miles, former athlete at the University of Texas, and she's got her own little podcast now with Les, and we're going to talk to her all about that and the LSU-Alabama game. She's been through a lot of these wars. And how about Super Bowl superstar Robert Meachem? He was one of the main keys on that Super Bowl winning team for the Saints, a wide receiver in 2009. He had some 3 great years, 2009, 2010, 2011, really special for him. He's a former University of Tennessee wide receiver as well. He's going to talk about the Saints and their upcoming battle with the Rams and about his career as well. And we're also going to have a special. We're going to have some anthems from my man, 5-star hero. He's going to give you some Saints, and he's going to give you some Rams. How about getting the Saints going right now, right here on Primetime Sports?
Oh, yeah. 5-star. This for New Orleans. Who that nation? Who that? Who that? We that, we that. Who that? Who that? We that, we that. Who that? Who that? We that, we that. Saints going all the way. Saints going all the way. Kumbaya, this the Who That Nation. Game on the line, you can bet we take them. Go. Black and gold, black and gold. Don't stop, boy. We trying to win the Super Bowl. We rock and roll, rock and roll. Touchdown, go Saints. We gonna do it some more. We rock and roll, rock and roll. Touchdown, go Saints. Now give me some more. Now who that? Who that? Holla, who that? Who that? Holla, who that? Who that? Holla, who that? Who that? Who that? Who that? Who that nation? Black and gold, black, black and gold. Oh yeah. 5-star. Black and gold, black and gold, black, black. Who that? Who that? They ain't ready, they ain't ready, they ain't ready for us. They ain't ready, they ain't ready, they ain't ready for us. They ain't ready, they ain't ready, they ain't ready for the black and gold, black, black. Who that? Who that? They ain't ready, they ain't ready, they ain't ready. What up? They ain't ready, they ain't ready, they ain't ready. What up? They ain't ready, they ain't ready, they ain't ready for the black and gold, black, black and gold. Game time, baby, and I go for the Saints. I was born in New Orleans where we party and drink. Super Bowl on the line and I'm playing to win. I fell in love with the hook. Watch me sing it again. It go, who that? Who that? Holla, who that? Who that? Holla, who that? Who that? Holla, who that? Who that? Who that? Who that? Who that nation? Black and gold, black, black and gold. Oh yeah, I'ma take it old school.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. What a big week It is here in South Louisiana. Well, heck, the whole state of Louisiana loves LSU, loves the Saints. We're going to talk to Smacker Miles, Les Miles' daughter, who is in the media business now. She was a swimmer at Texas, but she lived and died with every LSU game, especially these big ones, because her dad was the head coach. But she and her pops, Les, have a podcast now called Less is More. She's going to come up and talk all about LSU Bama. I've got my man, five-star hero back. He's throwing down. You just heard the Saints anthem. We're going to have the LSU anthem coming up here, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But he's also going to tell us what he's been doing. But right now, I have a special guest. I heard him a couple weeks on Big Fave, Marlon Favorite's show, and I said, man, he sounds good. Who is this guy? And I realized that after a couple minutes, it's Robert Meachem, the former wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. Back when they won the Super Bowl in 2009, he was a key cog on that team. Obviously, they had some great receivers on there with Marcus Colston. You had Lance Moore, Robert Meachem, of course, and Devery Henderson. They had some great ones. But before that, man, he went to Tennessee, first-round pick in 2007. And for those LSU fans that remember the Vols back in the mid-2000s, he was a baller, especially that 2006 season, 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he got gobs and gobs of yards per catch. That was his thing, getting yards per catch. Basically 25 one season. I remember that earlier. But here he is, Robert Meachem. Welcome to Primetime Sports for the first time, my man. How you been?
I've been pretty good. How you been?
I'm fantastic. It's even better now that you're here, my man.
Well, no, I'm better because you're here.
All right. I like that. Hey, let's talk about you as a New Orleans Saint. When you get drafted back in 2007, the Saints had just come off the NFC Championship year, but they had not a whole lot of success before. So what's your first thoughts when you got picked in the first round?
They already have great receivers. Why they drafted me?
Is that your first thought?
That was my first thought.
Because they had Marcus Colston.
And he was playing his butt off.
Dante Stallworth might have been around.
Dante and Joe Horn was still here.
Joe Horn was still there.
And Devery was still young. So I was just caught off guard by... I really thought that taking all the visits, I thought I was going to end up in Kansas City or St. Louis.
Right.
I never thought, nobody ever said nothing about the Saints. But I think back in the day, me and Buster Davis.
Craig?
Buster and Dwayne Bowe.
Right.
We was all here together on our visit, and it was Coach CJ made us show our bread and butter plays of what the other receivers, like we had to write what Bowe's favorite route was.
That's funny.
It was pretty fun.
So Dwayne Bowe, obviously LSU from Miami, Norland High School. You impressed under that one?
Yeah.
And also, obviously, Craig, Buster Davis, both first-round picks.
Yes.
Would they end up being the same draft as you?
We had the biggest receiver draft in a while. It was Calvin Johnson, Sidney Rice.
Megatron, who was on a show I did back in Atlanta.
We had Dwayne Jarrett.
USC?
Myself.
Yeah.
Ted Ginn Jr.
Who's still playing?
And I want to say that was it on the receivers for the first round because you had Buster, and, of course, and you had Bowe. So I think it was 5 of us. And then you had Sidney Rice and Dwayne Jarrett.
A lot of guys,
6,
man.
7.
A lot of guys that year. By the way, you mentioned Ted Ginn Jr. He is still playing.
Yes.
We're talking off camera. You still have an itch to play?
I got the itch. It's like slitting my wrist.
We don't want to do that one.
When I'm watching the games, I'm like on the edge of the seats. I see stuff happening before it happens. It's like, okay, God, you got to get me back out here. It's time for me to go play. It's time for me to get out of my system. I don't want to go. I played arena ball. It was very fun, but it was just different.
What was that like?
Only thing you worry about is the wall.
Right, the wall.
The wall is undefeated.
Right.
But other than that, it was fun. You know,
Yeah.
It was just like backyard football.
Yeah,
basically.
sure. Yeah, you're having fun. You love to play the game then.
Yeah.
What would it take for you to get back to the NFL?
One team to say come back. I would love for the Saints to say come on home and play for us and going to retire after 2 years from now, if that's what God wants, but that's what it would take.
What was it like, though, like that whole year, the Super Bowl year? Because everybody is starting to compare this year, even though they're not undefeated, but they do have a 6-game win streak. The Super Bowl year was just magical. Kind of take us through, because obviously you know I've got to get to the Meachem Miracle eventually, like everybody does. But during the season, as you're early in the year progressing, what was the thoughts of the players?
In the offseason, I think the first OTA practice is when we kind of knew we were special. And we knew as an offense, because we had Darren Sharper, you know, and Tracy Porter and Jabari Greer and Roman, you know, on the back end.
Great secondary.
Then you had Vilma and
Yeah.
as the Mike. So And then you had that front seven that was so good. Will, Charles, and Bobby McCray, and Cedric, and Remy Adele, Hargrove. You had all those guys that were just bought in.
Yeah.
And then, I'm telling you, the first day of OTA practice, I think we was bombs over Baghdad. It felt like, it's like we scoring every play. It's like we never, it's like in 08, it was like it was over. You know, it's like we buried 08, second line on it, and moved on to 09, and it was time to go.
The 08 season was kind of the precursor, though, because you went 8-8.
Yeah.
But about 6 or 7 of the 8 losses were like literally within like 5 points. It was nuts. So it wasn't a reach when people. I was one of the people who said this could be a special team. Did I say Super Bowl champ? No, I said, but I thought they could get to the at least maybe the NFC Championship game. But you took it one step further. You guys won 13 straight games.
Well, we should have won. We should have won 16.
Right.
We should have.
Well, the 14th was the Cowboys, and that was a Sunday night loss or Saturday night loss. I think it was like a holiday game or something.
Yeah, that was.
It was a night game.
It was a night game.
Yeah.
It was.
But it was like a weird night. Anyway.
It was kind of weird because we lost, I think, by maybe 4 points or something.
It was a wild game.
But we should have won that game.
And then Tampa Bay was that crazy thing. And then you didn't play Breeze in the last game because you didn't need
the
him.
game against Tampa, what was so funny is I caught the pass to set him up for the field goal, to set Garrett up for the field goal against Tampa. He misses that one. But I caught the same pass in the same position, in the same spot, and he makes it against Minnesota. So it all worked out.
Well, you know what else worked out? You kept the streak alive in Washington. I'll never forget this because I lived in D.C. for a while as well, and I know they're rabid up there, but this game looked like it was gone. I mean, it was done. And all of a sudden...
That's what it looked like to you guys?
It did for a bit.
Oh, well.
But when he got that interception...
We was just different.
When they got that interception, I was like, oh, no. And then all of a sudden, you steal the ball off the interception, and you end up scoring yourself. I mean, that's one of the craziest plays in Saints history. There it is right there. Take us through it, man.
Well, like I tell everybody, our defense, they always trying to knock the ball out your hand. Even when you're coming back to the huddle, after you caught a pass, you ran 15 yards down the field, you're trying to come back to the huddle at practice, they're still trying to knock the ball out your hand. And most DBs don't carry the ball that well because they don't have it all the time.
Right.
So I just saw the way he was carrying the ball, and I figured if I get between these two blockers, I got a shot. And I was close enough, and
ripped it.
All I kept saying was, I hope his knee wasn't down. I hope his knee wasn't down.
Wow. All right.
But then once I took the ball, right there at that moment, the fastest person on the field besides me was Devery. And I said, ain't nobody else going to catch me.
Right. That's it. You died. And there's a score right there. That kept the streak alive. And obviously you had the great comeback at Miami. I mean, there were some crazy games there.
Down 27-3.
27-3.
Against Ricky Williams and Ronnie Brown. That was a tough place to play in. But Coach gave us a speech of our lives. He said, we was born for this, and it's going to be the same locker room we play in a few weeks. If you're going to buy into that, let's go win. But if you're not, stay in the locker room.
There you go. Actually, that's funny. I just heard that quote just this week, ironically, from LSU's quarterback. Say, if you're scared, don't even come out of the locker room because you're going to win.
LSU don't have nothing to lose. I mean, just go play football.
Go play football.
You don't have nothing to lose against Bama.
Right.
Bama is the one who has something to lose because everybody's predicting them to go undefeated.
Right. There's pressure there, right?
It's a lot of pressure right
When
there.
did the pressure get big for the Saints? Because, listen, I mean, you guys came in loosey-goosey. You came off 8-8. You kind of had that nothing-to-lose attitude. But then when you start winning week after week and you start a season 13-0, there comes a point in there it's like, whoa, we are very good, and we may be better than we even thought we were.
I'm going to say for myself, the pressure didn't kick in during the season. The pressure kicked in the off season.
Oh, after
the Super Bowl, that's when the pressure kicked in.
Well, it's so hard.
Because it's like in our mind, we want to win 2 in a row, and we had the team to do it.
Right.
So that's when the pressure kicked in. The first game, the first year, everybody, this is a miracle season. So you get caught up in the here and that. So yeah, this is right. It's a miracle season. But no, we had already knew in our minds we were going to win the Super Bowl anyway.
Well, there's 13-3. You won the Super Bowl. You took down Arizona. Obviously, Minnesota. Let's take me to Minnesota, though, because that game, to me, was the greatest. I'm as old as the Saints, right? So I've been going.
I'd say it was the greatest game for our defense because I never seen Favre get hit that many times.
Well, Favre, there he is. He was in pain.
But he showed you what the NFL was all about.
Yeah.
Like being on the other side and watching him get up, limp, and still try to play in that game, he showed what toughness, what the old school football was all about. And so
they don't make them much like that anymore, right?
Oh no, oh no, because I mean, now if he'd have got hit like he did then, now you probably get suspended for 4 games.
The joy and elation of this kick right there, and I see Streif going nuts. I work in the booth with him now, but the joy and elation.
I was just like Streif. Both of my hands was up like this was a big step.
Because, I mean, it's almost like it was.
I'm gonna take it back.
Yeah.
Remember earlier you asked me about the pressure. It was pressure. The pressure for me was I used to watch the news.
Right.
And it's a lot of killings. Well, when we was winning, either they didn't show all the deaths.
People are happier. No, there was less killing. You're right.
Killing.
You're right. No, that's true.
So that was kind of the pressure because it's like, okay, we win. A lot of people lives get saved.
Oh my goodness!
So that was a different.
We're saving lives here, but you're making people happy. You know what? When people are happy, they're less apt to kill. I get it completely. And you took from this moment because I was in the dome. I was living in the ATL at the time. I flew back, and I was crying tears of joy, literally crying. I couldn't believe it. And then the Super Bowl's 2 weeks later. You come in as a 6-point underdog. Peyton Manning is on top of the world. Most of the country thinks that the Colts will probably win, except the Who Dat Nation, who really felt the specialness of this team. And I think almost everybody in New Orleans wasn't hoping they were going to win. I think most people knew they were going to win. When did you know?
When they kept Monday when we touched down. Well, we arrived in Miami on Sunday night, but Monday we were off. And we kind of all went to hang out, and the Colts was in the same place.
Oh, yeah, he liked to hang out.
No, the Colts.
Oh, the Colts were in the same place.
Yeah, so we was on one side, they were on the other side.
Oh, that's interesting.
And we had a few guys that had a lot of money, and they lit up the club.
They lit it up.
And then they even bought the Colts something. So.
Oh, nice. Buttered them up a little bit.
That way, if you think you was gonna win, we're gonna beat you with everything. We're gonna outbuy bottles on you today. We walk into the car. We walk into the car. We're gonna beat you to walk into the car.
Oh my goodness!
That's just our mindset. That's the way we felt. So I think we won that game on Monday.
You won it on Monday, huh? That's interesting. Well, let me say this: the onside kick to start the second half was big, but the Tracy Porter. That's when everybody, because you have Manning coming down the drive. It's Peyton Manning, one of the greatest of all time, and you're thinking.
That was his bread and butter.
You're thinking it's going to be a tie game, and Drew's going to have to come down. All of a sudden,
well, everybody forget Tracy picked him off earlier in the game. If Reggie Wayne don't pull Tracy down, he has 2 pick sixes in this game.
This is one of the more iconic moments, though, in the Saints' history. And I have to imagine, much like Hartley's field goal going through, this you kind of knew that was the moment. So take me through that for you as a player. You're watching it from the sideline.
It was like. Like your dreams are really coming true. It's like, how the women say they have the fairy tale wedding. Well, that was the fairy tale for me at that moment. When he picked that ball off, I was like, wow, I really am a national champion. Like it's really true. But I would say when we touched down after the game back here, that's when it really hit that we was champions.
Unbelievable, huh?
When we seen all those fans, it was like, this is what it's supposed to be like.
Your 3 best years coincide. There's you celebrating. Your 3 best years in the NFL coincide with the Saints' 3 best in their history. That run from 9 to 11, and I want your opinion on this. I always say that I thought that was the most explosive team I've ever seen in the NFL. Certainly the best Saints team, in my opinion.
In my mind, I'm like you. I feel like we're supposed to have three Super Bowl rings.
Right.
I feel like we robbed ourselves out of 2 of them.
There's always a little bit of a hangover the year after you win, and you guys still win 11-5. Everybody knows the beast mode game, and I don't want to get into that. But that was 10. Then you refocused, and not like you were bad in 10, but you refocused, and all of a sudden that looked like one of the juggernauts of all time. 13-3.
Well, see with Seattle that year, because that's still a sore spot for me because I never beat Seattle in Seattle. But the problem was when in 10 and 11 when we played against them, we beat them in the regular season like 34-14 or something.
Right.
So when we got out there, we jumped up 14-0.
Yeah.
And I think we took our foot off the brake. I mean, off the gas.
Gas pedal, right.
I think we kind of did it, and then once they got on a roll, we couldn't stop them, and we couldn't score.
Drew Brees has thrown a lot of touchdowns, and I know that you are a target of many, and here's proof right here because we showed this last week. Colston has the most. Their combination, Brees to Colston, is one of the top 10 of all time as far as a quarterback to a receiver. Obviously, Jimmy Graham and him had a connection, Lance Moore. But look who's fourth on that list. Number 17, Robert Meachem. You caught 25 of his, and that number is still there at 501 because they didn't obviously get a touchdown pass this week. But you are still sitting there at number 4. I mean, when you think about this guy.
Well, I think Michael Thomas before Drew retires, I think Michael Thomas catches me.
He catches you.
I think he catches
but
me.
He's not there yet. You're fourth on that list.
I know, but I just want to give him the credit because
he's phenomenal,
he's playing really good this year.
Yeah. But by the way, how does it make you feel that you're right there?
That you're part of history?
Yeah.
I mean, my kids can be able to see this from years from now that Daddy just wasn't just a player. He actually contributed. See, my daughter, my daughters, they get it, but my boys, they still think
they don't know. Yeah,
they think they can race me.
Right. Yeah. That's gonna last forever, by the way. Hey, when you talk about this team right here, the Saints, because we're gonna preview the Rams just for a second. What do you think about the hopes and where this team can go? I mean, truthfully, because there's a lot of roadblocks in the way. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC, and they're going to be playing one of them this weekend.
Well, last week was the playoffs for them. And I think this was the playoff run right now because St. Louis, yeah, you can lose this game, but it also is motivation to when you get to the playoffs, if you beat this team.
Right.
And I really feel like it's a great chance of beating them. I just think I think our defense is going to have to bring a lot more pressure than they normally have brought.
Right.
I think they need to get that ball out of his hands a lot quicker.
You more than anybody knows what it's like to play in the dome. Everybody's like, okay, the Rams are 8-0, but there is when that dome's a tilting and a rocking, talk about the edge it gives the home team and the Saints.
If you don't have chills bumps on you, I don't think you're human. The dome is one of the loudest places when our defense is on the field, and I think that's going to help. That right there helps us win. People don't understand how important crowds are.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to get patted on the back, right?
Sure.
So when the crowd is screaming, that's the pat on the back that you need.
That's it right there.
That's the extra man. That's that 12th man for you.
The 12th man. It means something.
And then, with everything happening with Katrina and everything that went on in the dome, it's a lot of angels in there that's saving us too.
Amen to that, brother. Hey, we have a tradition, and there's a lot of great players on these balls right here, a lot of great Saints, a lot of great people that have done things in the city of New Orleans. I want you right here on this main one, right by Archie Manning and some of the legends.
Well, that's even more of a legend. I get to sign by Mr. Archie.
Archie Manning, Robert Meachem, he would have loved to throw to you. He had a couple good receivers back in his day, Wes Chandler and Henry Childs and some guys like that. But, man, he could have used the Robert Meachem going deep. I appreciate you, man. We have a couple gifts for you. I know you like to eat good food.
Oh, who don't?
This is real good food. This is Shays Delachey's, part of the Delachey's family. That one's on Uptown. That's on Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway. I'll get you started on a good meal.
Man,
and also, this
I appreciate
this task performance. You say you have some of these?
Oh, yeah, we have some of these.
I mean, do you like the way it feels on your body?
If you don't, something's wrong.
That's what I tell people, man. It is unbelievable.
It feels really good.
Yeah,
boss lady gonna be happy about this gift.
Yeah, y'all enjoy, and listen, it's been a pleasure. I hope this isn't the last time.
No, it's not.
I'd love to see you a lot more. Absolutely, Robert.
Maybe in a few weeks,
Yes.
Maybe at what is this, week 8, 9?
Yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit more about being a correspondent. We talked a little bit about the Saints now. We talked about your career mostly, but maybe next time we'll get you right before the playoffs. We'll talk about that. Let's knock on wood on the playoffs. Hope I didn't jinx anything.
No.
All right.
We probably bring Big Marlon on with us.
Yeah, you and Marlon together. Big fave.
That'd be a good laugh.
That would be fun. Actually, let's book that.
Oh.
We'll do that right after Christmas. Hey, this is my man Robert Meachem, and we're going to bring Marlon Fave, right? Big Fave. Fave, you listening? I know you're watching. We'll bring him in there. Hey, by the way, speaking of guys that I really love on this show, we've had him on before. His name is 5-Star Hero. You heard his anthem a little bit ago. We're going to talk to him for a second, see what he's up to. And don't forget, Smack her Miles. I hate to call her Les Miles' daughter because she is doing some great things in her own right, but she's Les Miles' daughter, and she's phenomenal, and she's going to talk all about this LSU-Alabama game on Saturday night. Stay tuned. It's Primetime Sports.
Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Embracing New Orleans soul with style and fashion wear from NOLAshirts.com. Show off your love for one of America's unique cities with belts, shirts, and hats in a variety of colors and styles. NOLAshirts.com proudly celebrates the culture and embodies the spirit and determination of the people from the Crescent City. Tradition lives on at NOLAshirts.com.
The owners of the Delachey's Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Delachey, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Delachey, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my, oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At the mid-city lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. How much fun was that with Robert Meachem, former Saints star wide receiver? Hey, you know, we've had this before where I had my man, five-star hero, the rapper. He comes in and gives us a couple anthems. He does one for LSU. He does my favorite's the Pelicans. I love it. Pelicans, Pelicans. And he obviously does some for the Saints. This is such a big week. I said, let's bring him back in and let's do one for the Saints and LSU. Get everybody all riled up and jacked up for the game this weekend. Some people call him five-star hero. Some people call him Dottie hero. Well, today we're going to call him Daddy hero because he's got his son Jordan, future Saints running back right here. Jordan, he's checking himself out on the TV. Welcome. Hey, bro. Good to see you, man.
Scott? How
Everything
you doing,
good?
Man? Oh, man, we having fun, huh, Fat Man?
Look at him. Look at him.
Hey,
I love it.
baby. How you doing?
He's checking himself out in the monitor, looking good. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit. We just heard the Saints anthem. We're going to go into the LSU anthem. What's going on, man? How you been?
Oh, man, you know, I just been working, working with the T-shirts online, doing a lot of my Facebook stuff, a lot of my fans. I'm in a bunch of different groups, you know, so it's just been a grind for me. The music is going crazy. Shout out to the fans, the sports teams, LSU winning, Saints winning. So we doing good, huh, son? Who that?
Like, heck yeah.
Who
Hey,
that?
by the way, it does help, right? I mean, what a great – it helps everybody's vibe in town when the Saints and LSU are winning,
most
even if
definitely.
it's just one or the other. But they're both just killing it right now. Both are perceived to be top 3-4 teams in the NFL and then in college football.
Right. With Alabama coming up next, I really say we shouldn't have lost the game against Florida.
No.
It was a nail biter, you
Right.
know. We pretty much, I wouldn't say evenly matched teams, but their defense was rushing Joe Burrow, as you've seen. But we should have beat Florida. We should have been undefeated. We should have had the same record as Alabama.
Right.
You know, so Alabama, it's not all the hype that they seem to be, you know. I think LSU going to run over them boys.
Look at my man.
They ain't ready for the LSU.
They ain't ready. By the way, that's on your shirt. They ain't ready. What's they ain't ready about?
They ain't ready for the LSU. You know, it's just, they ain't ready as a confidence level, you know. It's a confidence level that you give to yourself of being the best. You know, I'm five-star. You already know anything I do got to be the best. So when they say they ain't ready, it's like they ain't ready for us. No matter what team you name, they ain't ready for us.
I don't think he's ready. Look at you right there in the recording studio getting it done. So what's the future of him? Is he music or is he sports? Because he's already got some size to him. I can see that.
Tell him, Peyton, what you like. You know, Peyton he more in the sports. He like the music when I'm doing it. You know, he dance and stuff like that to it. But Fat Man like football. He the football man. He want to run.
Peyton is seen all over the South right now. If you're watching on CST, he is making his debut on television. I have a feeling this ain't going to be his last time. And this is five-star hero. You know what we do. We give gifts when you come. I even added something to the collection this year.
Look at Mr.
We got a little gift certificate. Take you a little lunch. Hey, that's open for lunch now. It's Chez Delachey's. Y'all can pop over there and get a little bite. They have lunch specials. And check this out, man. You're going to love this. The last couple times, Task Performance has come on board, and we give shirts to the guests now, and that has become our thing. So You can enjoy that. And I'm going to tell you what, we love the Saints anthem you just did.
Yeah.
But guess what? You're about to go through the LSU anthem. Are you
yes,
ready?
Sir.
Are you ready?
Let me give them the premiere.
Are you ready?
Guys,
because they ain't ready.
They
ain't ready for this.
Come on, let's
All right.
do this.
It's going to be 5-star. Coming up next, we got the Saints anthem. Well, we had the Saints anthem. We have the LSU anthem. And get you ready for the game. And also following that, we'll have Smacker Miles, Les Miles' daughter, right here on Prime Time Sports.
Oh, yeah. 5-star. LSU. I said, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU, huh? They ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. We the best in the league if you looking for talent. LSU going hard, but we beat Alabama, then we going out to Florida. Drown the Gators, everybody getting bucked when we step in the stadium. This the LSU anthem, you know it's a hit. You don't know another rapper two-step like this. See me screaming out the window, yelling purple and gold. I'm an LSU fan, girl, you know how we roll now. Back and back it on up. Hey, 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 way down in the valley. Way down in the valley. Way down in the valley. The purple and gold, purple. I say, oh yeah, 5-star LSU. And I say, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. I say, they ain't ready for the LSU. No, they ain't ready for the LSU. Hold on, let me step to the front. I want to see them play me one-on-one. I say, hold on, let me step to the front. I want to see them play me one-on-one. I say, told y'all we the best in the
Hey, welcome back to Prime Time Sports. Hey, that was the LSU anthem. We heard the Saints anthem earlier from 5-Star Hero, and that's the LSU one. That guy keeps it going on. Hey, man, we talked all about that Saints game coming up against the Rams, but this game Saturday night, the night before that, that's been the biggest game literally for the last decade. LSU and Bama, they were both Titans for a while. Bama's had LSU's number lately, but LSU had them earlier in the 2000s. They won 5 in a row then. But, man, this game Saturday night, Bama comes in as a 14-point favorite over the LSU Tigers. But, hey, we've got a different kind of guest today. A lot of times we have a player come in. A lot of times we have a newspaper guy or maybe a TV guy. Well, we have Les Miles' daughter. And I'm going to tell you this, Smacker Miles is her name, and she has a podcast called Less is More. That's right, Les with one S. It's Les and Smacker. I've heard it right when they started. I remember last year Les was on the road with us with Fox, and he was so proud of it. He sent us all some links, and I got to tell you, it is fantastic. And I heard her last week on Matt Moscona's show, and I said, man, this would be the perfect person to bring on LSU Bama Week because she lived it. She was there in school dealing with it every single year, living with every win or loss, because that's how it is as a coach's daughter or wife or son, and it gets tough. But here she is, Smacker. What is up?
Nice
Welcome to the show for the first time. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Good. And I got to tell you, you look great. I love the outfit. Growing up in the Les Miles house, I got to ask you, what was that like? I mean, I know it's a broad question, but Les is one of the bigger, more colorful characters and one of the great sound bites. And I just wonder if he gives you sound bites at breakfast.
Oh, he absolutely does. That man rolls out of bed ready to go. And there were times where we weren't ready for it when we were on our way to school and he's driving us and we're getting our pump-up talk for the day. So it was definitely like being coached. You never forgot that he was a coach.
The pump-up talk. Okay, first period. Okay, you got to go in slow, but then you finish strong. What was a pump-up talk like?
One time he had me dedicate myself to a stop sign outside the LSU Natatorium.
That sounds like our boy.
That was one of the classics. It was like that I needed to be motivated every time I saw this stop sign, even before I got to the pool, I think was the point.
Did it work? That's right. You were a swimmer, and you actually swam at the University of Texas. You're a Longhorn. You like the burnt orange. Yeah. Tell us about your career coming in through high school and why you chose Texas.
I actually went to a boarding school at the end of high school to improve my swimming. My parents didn't want to let me go away, but I kept telling them, Dad, you always talk about pursuing excellence in everything you do.
Right.
And so I kind of used his own saying against him to be able to get to bowls. And then from bowls, I got better and better and worked at it.
Oh, you went to bowls in Jacksonville?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, where Chipper Jones went.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Exactly.
It's a great school. So is that a school known for swimming as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Best boarding school, best high school swimming in the country.
I have to ask you before we get to this Bama LSU game. You've dealt with this game every year. I mean, Les came in, won the national title in 2007, and he came from Oklahoma State, where you obviously lived for a bit as well. There's you with your mom. What was it like on Bama LSU week? Because everyone wants to say it's just another game, but we all know it's not just another game.
It was an interesting point you brought up when you were talking about how big of a game the Saints have and how big of a game LSU has this weekend. The difference there is that not only are these great teams, this game the playoffs depend on this game.
Yeah.
So the idea that you would even argue that a nearly undefeated Saints team versus an undefeated Rams team is as big as this LSU game is just not reality, because these Tigers need that win a lot more than the Saints need theirs.
Because you've got a playoff system where you can, several more teams get in.
Yes.
Whereas that's the argument for college football against like expanding playoffs, is because every game means something. And if you lose one, you're probably out. If you lose two, you're definitely out. LSU is hanging on. They do control their own destiny because they did lose that one game to an SEC East team, which means if you sweep the West, you're going to have tiebreakers on everybody. So going into this particular game, Alabama always was, Les's toughest opponent. Your dad had a 2-1 edge on Nick Saban at one point. People seem to forget that because it kind of turned the other way, like it did with everybody who coached against Saban. But your thoughts going into this game on what it means for LSU and what they need to do to win it?
This game means everything for LSU. And to win it, they have to play a very complete game. Yeah. And I think that we're going to see this is going to be a lot like an NFL game in the sense that every possession matters. You're going to see time being an issue at the end of this game, and I think it'll definitely come down to the wire. But we need LSU to be within a touchdown at half and then have the emotional edge of getting Devin White back after the half and finish strong. I'm
curious, growing up, did you go to every game? I mean, was that something that the Les Miles kids, they went to all the games, home games and road games?
I went to every home game that I could get to and every away game that was also able to get to around swimming.
Yeah.
So I didn't see everyone, but I saw everyone where my brothers and I didn't have a conflict.
Right, sure.
So my mom did a really good job of making sure that we felt like our sports were a priority. And even looking back, I'm almost shocked at times that, Mom, you took us to Ben's C-Team Prairieville Broncos Little League football game over Dad's game. But that mattered so much in our lives, and I'm so grateful now looking back that it was that way.
Well, when you had a Bama game, was it ever different? Was that C game in Prairieville going to take over? Because Bama's, I could see for Rice and maybe some others. I don't want to just disparage schools, but some smaller games. For the Bama game, did y'all make most of these?
Yes. My dad definitely felt like my mom needed to make that one a priority as far as her getting to it. So I can remember several Bama games where we had a babysitter and I had a summer league or a city meet for swimming or something like that. But my mom got to most of the away Bama games.
Yeah, right.
And I got to the last one we went to when my dad was coaching at Bama.
So we saw your son, because Les worked some games, his son, your brother, your younger brother, Ben, was at Nebraska. Now he's at Texas A&M. He transferred. Your other brother, I guess the second in the family, Manny's at North Carolina. And you have a younger sister, too. Is she an athlete as well?
She is. She's a softball player, freshman in high school.
Freshman in high school, so she's the caboose, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Now, as far as this game goes, for whatever reason, Alabama has been the albatross on LSU. Like I said earlier, LSU had won 5 in a row. Seems like decades ago, but it really was in the mid-2000s. As far as this tale goes, going into it, 2 touchdown underdogs in Tiger Stadium, that's almost unheard of. Can LSU use that to their advantage?
Absolutely. They've won every time that game day, all 4 of them have picked against them, they've won every time.
Every time they all pick against them.
We seriously need Bama or game day to pick against LSU because they seem to use that as motivation.
Well, going into it, every year the quarterback has been an issue. Mettenberger kind of had a coming out party in 2012 when things weren't seeming to work out, and all of a sudden that propelled him to the great 2013 season. Joe Burrow has been a difference maker this year. The quarterback play has been a little bit spotty over the years. What can he do to turn the table for the for the LSU Tigers?
He just has to play, like I said, a complete game. He can't turn it over. We cannot see this offense have turnovers. And I think if he can play one of his better games, they'll be right there in it. But I kind of think that not that we know what we're going to get from the LSU offense. I don't mean to make it seem unexciting, but I just feel like the LSU offense is going to put up between 17 and 28 points. And I think that the defense being able to stop Tua is the most important aspect of this game.
Let's talk about Tua for a second, because this guy comes in as a freshman, didn't play a whole lot because he had the SEC reigning player of the year on the team already. So he comes in, gets some spot play during the season. Then he comes in the second half. Bama wasn't doing a whole lot in that championship game last year against Georgia. And he has an almost flawless second half, and he ends up taking this long touchdown. But this year he comes in, oh my goodness, 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and he hasn't had to play in the fourth quarter. Talk about this young man and what he's done for the Alabama offense, which is known for defense and having good offenses. Now they have a really good defense, but an even better offense.
I'm so excited to see his play because when you come off the bench, even in a national championship game, you feel like there isn't pressure on you because the guy in front of you was the one with pressure on him.
Right.
So he comes in, and not to take anything away from that performance because it was unbelievable.
Right.
But you have nothing to lose. You're young. You're coming in to win the national championship for your team. And if you don't, your starting quarterback has already been benched. This year, he's been unbelievable, and nothing to take away from what he's done because it's been incredible. And I love watching him play. You don't have to watch more than 5 plays to get highlights from Tua. They're all over the place. But that being said, he hasn't played in the fourth quarter. So the idea that now he's a starter, he's the one with the pressure, and he's going to have to play his first truly complete game here in Tiger Stadium.
Well, you said national championships. I want to take you back because you came here when you were 10 years old from Oklahoma State, and LSU wins a national championship within a couple of years. Did you think this was going to happen every year? Because it's like, that was amazing. What was that like? You know, right away, you're probably, 11, 12 years old when it happened.
Yeah, and it's weird because when we found out from Oklahoma State that we were moving to, literally we called it moving to LSU because you didn't think of places as a coach's kid. You thought of the school you were going to.
We're moving to LSU.
Exactly. So I didn't even know of LSU when we moved because, like I said, I was 10. And then when we got to LSU, you just felt like all LSU does is win. And you thought that that was going to happen forever. And not to say that we took it for granted, but my memories of the national championship aren't quite the way I look back at it.
Right.
Which, once again, my parents did such a great job of keeping us grounded and making us feel like our things mattered. If you would have asked me when we won the national championship if it was a bigger deal for me to get sectionals cuts for swimming,
much bigger,
or Dad to win another title, I would have said, well, we're both going to do both of them. We got it.
This is what we do in this family.
Yep.
Hey, you were young when you were at Oklahoma State, but the pressure of a loss at Oklahoma State versus the pressure of a loss in Baton Rouge. I've been to Stillwater. They love their football. They're big. But it just seems down here, like the places like Alabama, Auburn, LSU, the fans live and die with each game. Did you feel that?
Absolutely. I don't remember losses from Oklahoma State because we won a lot for the expectations that had been set.
Expectations, right?
Exactly. And we improved the team. I can remember hearing about a bad loss to Texas, which is kind of ironic that I ended up going to Texas. But besides that, I couldn't tell you about any loss from our time at Oklahoma State, where at LSU, I can pretty much remember nearly every one of them.
Tough in the household, right? I mean, It's not easy.
And we were blessed that it wasn't that often, so you could really ride on a win, and if you took a bad day and a bad loss, and as my dad would say, finish second. That's what I like to say.
Finish second.
It was a tough one to take, and it was tough for the family, and it was tough for the town. Baton Rouge lives for LSU football.
People forget. Les Miles' win-loss record was as good as it gets in LSU history. I mean, he was phenomenal, did great things. You see him holding the trophy up there, won the national title. Let's talk about post-Les Miles and you, because you're working with your dad. I know it's not a daily thing, but this has got to be fun. Less is more. We saw the graphic, the lower third. That was spelled right. That's because it's Les Miles, not L-E-S-S. But what's it like doing this little podcast with him?
It's so much fun. I mean, every day's different, and he stays busy, and I think the inconsistency of the schedule is tough at times just because he's used to being so regimented in his schedule and what he plans to do the next day. But he is enjoying it, and it's been awesome to have him around more. Obviously, I get to spend a lot more time with him, which is super special for me. And the Miles family will never be short of having a team because I would love to be a sideline reporter, and both of my brothers want to be coaches. So we'll be around the game for forever, and it's something that we really enjoy as a family.
We'll talk about that because I know you're doing some games for your view, the high school games of the week, which is a lot of fun, isn't it? I mean, talk about what you want to do, though.
It's a blast. I would like to be a sideline reporter. I would also like to have my own show.
Right.
I would want to call it Smack Talk.
Smack Talk!
Yeah. And we would talk human interest stories. So I really love sports, but I also love the stories behind the athletes or the coaches and finding out what matters to them off the field or court or pool, whatever it is. So I want to stay in sports. It's something I've always been a part of. And I've found that going to these high school games is really important to me because I kind of draw a parallel to my sports career because you practice, you prepare, and then there's game day. So I love that aspect of game night. Let's get ready to go. Let's go have a good game.
Well, Smack Talk, I've got to ask you the question. The name begs itself to ask, and I'm sure you have to answer this all the time, so I apologize in advance. But where does the name come from, and when did you get it?
The name comes from me smacking my lips together when I was a baby, and I got it when I was a baby, a couple weeks old.
Show me how you do it. Oh, that's it. That's it. Yeah. Okay, so you literally were called Smacker as a baby from then on?
So I don't think my parents, I was the first. My mom was a tomboy and my dad was a football coach. I don't think they really knew what to expect. I know that they were expecting a boy because they didn't want to find out the gender of the baby, and then my dad went in and had his Michigan football hat and whistle on.
Oh my gosh.
And the doctor was like, "You're going to be so excited, blah, blah, blah." So they thought they were having a boy, so I don't think they were prepared for me. And my name is Catherine. My mom wasn't really huge on the name, so when Smacker came about, my dad started telling his colleagues and eventually got put in a heat sheet for swimming, and it was stuck ever since.
It's stuck ever since.
Yep.
Don't ever change it.
Thank you.
Because you can't do this show called Catherine Talk. It's not quite the same.
Not as cool, I agree.
Hey, by the way, we have a tradition which your dad is on, and this is going to be great because you're going to be the first daughter. I've had a couple of father-son things going on. The Rich Mowdy and his son Mike Mowdy played for the Saints, and we've had the former LSU quarterback Herb Tyler and his son. But this will be the first father-daughter, and I love it. They were on together. I got to get you and Les on here one time together. That's going to be fun. There's your dad. Why don't we do something right underneath him?
I like
Smack
it.
and Miles. We also have another great tradition. We give away
See,
stuff.
but I feel like I'm not deserving. I
You're
didn't
deserving.
win a national championship.
Throw it up there. It's all good. You're right. Oh, by the way, that's a Heisman Trophy runner-up right there. Jerry Stovall. Some great names on that ball. Sammy Martin, one of the fastest guys ever to play at LSU. Craig Stelz, some great ones. Here, we'll put that ball right here. And here's some other stuff.
I stole my dad's L on the autograph, so you know.
Sweet, sweet. Hey, come on down, enjoy. This is a place called Shays de la Shays. Great wine, bistro.
Awesome, thank you.
Phenomenal, and I want you to feel this because this is called Task Performance.
Ooh, nice.
That's a workout shirt, but you can
love
wear
my workout gear. This is
wear
perfect.
it out, hang out, bed. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
It really has been.
I appreciate
Smacker
it.
Miles. How can people find you on that podcast?
They can find it on iTunes or on the Players Tribune website.
And do you have archives
We do.
Okay.
Yes, you can download every episode from when we've started.
Les Miles and Smacker Miles, that's going to be something you don't want to miss. Hey, by the way, lots of people to thank today. Robert Meachem, always good to talk to former Saints, particularly ones that are Super Bowl winners, and five-star hero, and of course, Smacker Miles. Hey, next week we're going to keep it coming, and we're going to review the LSU-Alabama game, of course, the Saints-Rams game as well, and we're going to have more great guests right here on Primetime Sports. Hey, we'll see you next week.